I'm Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. Okay, I think you're going to enjoy this blog. It might meander a little bit here, but I think I'm going to give you guys some really good, valuable information and some really good further insight on how I work. I'm currently involved with mentoring a couple of young new realtors. I'm always, kind of helping people, not through just my blog here, but, in real life all the time on trying to impart some of the areas that I've learned to be successful in. And the proper mindset and outlook you have to have on life. So, I did a blog last month talking about, the current market now compared to 20 or 30 years ago. And it's an endless dialogue I get in my comment section that people are always saying that, Owen, you had it so easy when you started 30, 35 years ago. We're coming up to 35 years now since I bought my first condo, 1 bedroom in Richmond, still own it today. I've renovated it about 6 years ago. But people forget, though, too, that, I didn't buy one condo 35 years ago or buy a detached house back in the early 90s and I'm sitting on my ass. I've continuously bought real estate all the way through. I bought a substantial principal residence here in downtown Vancouver 3 years ago, got into a bidding war, had to offer subject free on it when the market was ultra hot. Prices probably still haven't gotten up to where I bought this current home I'm in now. I'm buying investment properties all the way along. So it's not like I'm living in the past here. I'm in the same market you guys are in. But I got into a bit of a dialogue here with a guy, and normally I don't even get into these long responses, but he brought up some things here that I want to address on my blog, and I'm going to probably do this in a couple of parts here, because he also brought up the fact how he's kind of teaching his kids right now. And I get this question quite a bit, and as I say, I'm mentoring some people right now, so I'm going to get into a little bit too on how I'm going about what's going on in the current market and how I have people look at the future here. So, the argument is that, yeah, it's way easier. When you had it so easy back 25, 30, 35 years ago. And I've said many times, and I still stick to this 100%, that I've said that it's probably just as easy, pretty much the same now to get into real estate, to save for retirement, to become a multimillionaire now as it was 25, 30 years ago. And the reason for that is that the game has changed. Sure, the prices have changed dramatically. My first condo was just under $70,000 over 33 years ago. Today, that condo's worth $400,000. Prices are up dramatically, but incomes and how you can earn money, especially passively now, creating multiple income flows passively, I would never have dreamed about even 15 years ago, let alone 35 years ago. The prices are way up, but the game has changed on what you can earn, in my opinion, has made up for those price increases and actually then some. As a matter of fact, I know some people are going to find this outrageous. Some of you are. But we very well may be in the golden age of investing, attaining assets, creating wealth now than when we were 10 or 15 years ago with the technology that's out there now. How do I know? Well, I'll tell you why. You guys know that currently I'm ranked top 1% in the Greater Vancouver Real Estate Board. Last year I was top 2%. I sell a lot of homes both on the listing side and on the buying side. My brokerage, Macdonald Westmar, we're on track to do $2 billion this year in annual sales. So I am privy, unlike a lot of the other people you see, the doom and gloomers or the media that are always giving you the negative narrative. They don't have a clue what's going on in the Vancouver real estate market because they're not realtors. They're not privy to the 50 or 60 deals I'm doing every year. They're not privy to the thousands of deals my brokerage is doing. Who is buying these homes? The way the media would tell you is the only one that's buying a home is a money launderer, a foreign buyer, or maybe a senior citizen that's ridden the market up for 30 years. And that's not the case. As I said many times here on my blog over the last 10 years, a lot of my clients are young millennials in their mid to late 20s, early 30s that are buying $1 million plus homes from me. Others are starting with maybe a 1 bedroom out in Richmond or New Westminster or a studio downtown for $600K. That's how I started. You start with a Motel 6 and then you move your way up to a Four Seasons. But I've had many clients over the years that have started with a condo and 5 years later were getting into their first detached home. Now, what separates these people from the ones that are struggling? Well, 30 years ago, you could buy a home based off of what we call, let's call them average wage earners. I did the catalyst for my book, if you guys remember, was a Canadian Airlines baggage handler who bought a home 35 or now probably 40 years ago in Kitsilano, fixed it up, and ended up selling it for $3 million. Well, if you're a baggage handler, you're not going to be buying a Kitsilano home anymore, like this guy did. So those days are gone. They're never going to come back. That ship has sailed. However, my argument is yes, those old world economy jobs, many of those are not going to cut it in a city like Vancouver, or I could name off 60 cities right now where it will not cut it. Vancouver is not an anomaly. Any highly desirable city like Vancouver is going to have high real estate prices, and it is decoupled from what we call the average Joe, the average wage earner. Now, this might seem unfair to people. I know a lot of people have, they think they're entitled to buy a home. They were born and raised in Vancouver. I'm telling you to get over it. The ship has sailed. It's not going to come back. But all is not lost. The thing now is that these old world economy jobs that were earning $50 or $60 or $70,000, yeah, you still can get in real estate. As I've said many times before, I've got great condos on SkyTrain in Richmond in the mid 300s for good one bedrooms. I've got one I'm listing in New Westminster next week. I've got 2-bedroom, 2 baths in West Richmond that I'm listing in the mid 400s. So you can still do it and then get in the market and ride it up. But if you want to buy a 2-bedroom in Yaletown for 1.2, or a townhouse, or maybe a duplex in Mount Pleasant, those jobs aren't going to cut it anymore. That's the bad news. The good news is, though, is that the game is completely changed now with technology and what young people can earn now via technology. I'm working now with young clients in their mid to late 20s that are earning $150,000 a year. They're computer technicians, they're programmers, coders. I also work with people that have no secondary education whatsoever, have not gone to university to become engineers, computer engineers, or graphics engineers, but have gotten into sales positions that are making $150,000 or $200,000 a year in their late 20s and early 30s. So it's what I've been pounding home here for so many years. It's on you. You've got to take ownership. The successful ones that are making it in Vancouver recognize that. The world has changed. If I take a job at the Vancouver School Board earning $60,000 a year, hey, it's a good job. If I enjoy it, great. But you're not going to be living in Vancouver on those wages. You're not. Maybe New Westminster, maybe the Fraser Valley. You might just have to stay renting. So that's the decision you have to make. And what I've been pounding home here, that there are some incredible opportunities out there right now if you're in the right fields. And most of those right fields involve technology, leveraging your time, building up passive income flows. Or you can still be a doctor or a lawyer, a professional accountant, all making 6 figures. Again, a sales career. But these are the things that you have to realize. Now, I had a guy, we're going back and forth on it, and he's just adamant that there's no way it's easier now than it was 30 or 40 years ago. He bought a house in the late 90s and he's been sitting on it, and there's no way anyone could buy that house now. He's right, not based on old world economy jobs. But again, technology now has brought up so much opportunity. Young people are in these sectors now that has more than made up for that. And again, the reason I know, and then I know the system is not broken, is because I'm selling homes to these people every single year. 20 or 30 of them. Every month I'm selling these homes. On the listing side, I'm listing homes. Some of them are my clients that I've gotten into on a 1-bedroom condo. Now they're moving up to a 2-bed or a townhouse. I've got clients, young clients that I sold a townhouse to or a 2-bed 5-6 years ago that are now getting into their first detached home at 1.8 or 1.9 million. These young people are earning $150K a year. I never would have dreamed about that when I was in my late 20s. They're saving their money. The other thing I won't get into too much, maybe on another blog, are the opportunities to get your money working for you passively, investing your money. It's night and day. I blatantly, when I first started off investing in the stock market 30 years ago, was getting ripped off. I used to have to buy high-priced mutual funds, which lagged the market, hideous high MERs, management expense ratios. When I wanted to buy individual stocks, the commissions were absolutely grotesque. I was paying $125 a trade, and I wasn't buying $10,000 worth of shares at a time. I was buying 1,000. In other words, my commission costs were 10%. Now you can trade for free on sites like Robinhood or Wealthsimple, low-cost ETFs. Again, I know I'm not going to convert a lot of people with what I'm telling them here, but you've got to open your eyes to this stuff. Yes, the prices have gone huge over the last 20 or 30 years, but if you're in the right sectors, your incomes have more than kept pace with that. And I have the proof because I've got young people buying homes from me and selling homes and moving up every single month. If I didn't have that, then I would tell you, and the only people that were buying homes were in their 50s and 60s, I would say there's something wrong. But it is not the case. You know, the final thing he was saying to me, he was adamant that, what he was talking about his kids, and I would never bring something that's about how you're teaching your kids. But since he brought it up, I don't know, and it's totally up to you how you're bringing up your kids with the current environment. But he's basically saying here that, it's an insult. I would never tell my kids it's an insult suggesting that it's easier today. That's ridiculous. Is it? I don't think it's ridiculous at all. First thing I would tell you, let me give you a little inside story here. So as you guys know, I've talked in passing about my father. My dad's now retired. My dad, very successful guy. Any realtor who's worked Richmond over the last 30 years would know my father. He was both in real estate. He started in the 1950s selling real estate in Kitsilano. He got into the oil business for about 15 years and then went back into real estate. And just recently retired. He could have retired decades ago, but enjoyed the business, enjoyed staying busy. Very successful guy. I was blessed to have a guy like my dad and my mom. Both successful, both instilled in my brother and I a strong work ethic. Don't rely on anybody for anything. The government is not your friend. Nobody's going to help you buy a house. Today is the golden time to get into the market and start saving and earning and moving up. And that was back 35 years ago. Now, you think when I bought a house 35 years ago, my first purchase was a condo just off number 3 road in Richmond. I think I paid just under $70,000 for it, wood frame, 600 square feet. Now, at the time, I paid, let's call it $70,000, and I had the privilege of paying about a 15% interest rate. Huge. My dad started selling homes in Kitsilano. You could buy a detached home at that time, west side Vancouver, on a nice lot in the $38,000, $45,000 range. You could buy east side homes far cheaper than that. They were giving them away. Do you think that my dad at the time, back 32, 33 years ago, when my brother and I were getting interested in real estate and wanted to buy our first places, do you think he ever would have said to me, hey, I had it a lot easier in the 50s. You could buy a detached home for $30K. Now you're buying a wood frame condo for $70,000. Of course not. He told us at the time that it was the golden age of getting into real estate. When you're telling your kids that it's much tougher now than it was back when I started, maybe very well might be. It doesn't matter. By doing that, you've lost the game before you've even started. Before you've even taken the field, you've already set up these mental roadblocks. Why would you do that? I'm mentoring, and I'll get another blog on this here, but I'm mentoring a couple of young realtors right now. And you think I'm going to be telling them that, hey, the market's tough right now, even though condo prices aren't even to where they were in 2017, for God's sake, and our interest rates are at a fraction. It's more affordable now than it was in 2017. But why would I do something like that? Because I think with the technology and the economy and the investing, the new age economy now, the opportunities now to leverage your time and money are far greater than what they were when I started out. That's the message I'm going to be sending them. It would be like a professional athlete, like a coach, Pete Carroll, telling Russell Wilson that, hey, we're playing this team, we beat them last year, but this year, they're a way better team. Probably not going to do very well, but hey, let's do our best shot at it. It goes back to the first 2 chapters in my book and what I've pounded home on my Saturday blogs here. It's in your thinking. It's your mindset. This is what trips most people up. There's only 2 ways to go in life. You're either negative, pessimistic, you're in that cocoon of sorrow, of negativity that blames everyone but yourself for where you're at in life. You watch the CBC News or CKNW that continuously cherry picks this negative narrative. That's all they do in the media. 90%, 10% might be positive by some miracle, but they don't get any clicks off that. So keep peppering you with the negative stuff, which just perpetuates your trouble. It's all of life. Success in life is all about your attitude. You either see opportunities, which I do right now. I think we are in the golden age. I mean, look no further. I just pulled an article from the Wall Street Journal last week on the thousands and thousands of newly minted millionaires in the stock market through GameStop and AMC and Bitcoin and Tesla. Some of these kids have made several $1 million, and they're barely out of their teens. I'm not advocating you do that. I don't invest in those type of stocks, although I'm 54 years old. If I was at that age, I probably would be involved in those. I wouldn't have all my chips in there. I'd have 5% or 10% of my mad money, because when you're in your early 20s, that's what you should be doing. Setting aside a little bit of money for those 10 baggers, as they call them. The opportunities are just incredible now. I never would have dreamed about this stuff 10 or 15 years ago. That's what I would impart, and what I am imparting on young people today. If I had a 18-year-old son or an 18-year-old daughter, that's what I would be telling them. But it starts with your mindset. If you're putting up roadblocks and barriers like there was, hey, it's going to be tough out there. I was lucky. I lived in the good old days, the golden age. But now it's tough. Prices are through the roof, and the Fed is printing money, and we're in a real estate bubble, and we're probably in a stock bubble. Good luck out there. Horrible. Instead, I would be saying, if I was talking to a young person who didn't know what they wanted to do, I would say, well, A, follow your passions, like I've said before, like many of the books. Get into something you enjoy doing. And then try and get into something that you enjoy doing that you can make some money at and scale up, or use technology to help leverage your time. Hopefully you can get into that. Now, if you say that you want to be a teacher, that's a worthy profession as well. Matter of fact, teachers, hospital workers, they do an incredible service here. They're probably underpaid. But even if we doubled their salary, they're not going to have enough money to buy a townhouse or a 2-bedroom in Yaletown. And I would explain to them that, hey, unfortunately, Vancouver's changed. It's been discovered. It's one of, 40 or 50 very desirable cities that are expensive to live in. You have 2 choices. You can get into a career that is going to give you that 6-figure income and up, or rent, or, lower your expectations, or move to a city that I've often said that is more aligned with what the average wage earner earns. But it starts with your attitude. You've got to be positive, optimistic, and look for opportunities instead of putting roadblocks up. And I'm going to do as I always do on my Saturday blog here. Some of the stuff I see in the media is just endless. It's just like shooting yourself with a bad drug, the negative stuff, and the cherry-picking negative stuff that they throw out there. Again, I'll close it off here. Stop focusing on things you have no control over in your life, and that these endless stuff you see on the media and some of these negative YouTube bloggers talking about micro and macro economic cycles, currency, the Fed printing money, the foreign buyers, the empty homes taxes, the economy, inflation, oil prices. You're just wasting your time with all of that stuff. I never paid any attention to any of it. My dad never paid any attention to it anyways. The dozens of multi-millionaires that I've been fortunate enough to know and learn from LA to New York City, never pay any attention to that. What we do focus on is what we can control. So that would be, if you're a young person looking at the landscape right now and determining, where can I go? I want to live in Vancouver. I want to eventually buy a detached house. I'm going to start with a condo in Yaletown and then move up the ladder over the next 10 or 15 years. That's how I did it. You're not going to start with a detached house. Get in the market first. Now you've crossed a huge hurdle, principal residence exemption, and you're riding the market up while you're earning more money and getting better in your career. You review the landscape and look at the areas that you can get into that are going to get you that superior income level. And they're everywhere. As I say, I've got car salesmen that are making $150,000 a year selling luxury cars with zero secondary education. So you don't have to have 50 or get into UBC or SFU or a big time university. That'd be nice. I've also had clients that have been self-taught coders that are making $150,000, $200,000 a year. That's what I would say you should do. Review the landscape, see where you want to go. But the other thing is of course, is your attitude. You've got to be positive, optimistic. It's not going to come overnight, and it's going to take some time. But don't live in the past here. Stop living in the past. That it was so easy, and telling your kids that it's going to be tough. Maybe it is going to be tough, but don't let them know that. Instill in them a positive attitude, and it can be done. Final thing, setting your goals. This is something that I learned 20 years ago, 25 years ago from my dad and one mentor that I had in New York that was a huge influence on me. You set your goals, set them high. Don't set them outrageously high that you're never going to attain them. In other words, if you're 5'4" and your goal is to make the NBA, that's a pretty lofty goal. Sure, it's going to be, you can set it. Look at Muggsy Bogues. But the chances are about 1 in 10 million. Set your goals high though, because even if you don't quite reach them, let's say your goal is to retire at age 60 with $5 million, either in real estate and stocks, a net worth of $5 million by the time you're 60. That's a good goal to have if you're in your early 20s, and you can do it, no problem. I've done better than that, not to brag. I was a multimillionaire by the time I was in my early 40s. Didn't do anything special, just worked hard and stayed with the program. But here's the thing, even if you don't quite reach the $5 million, I guarantee, even if you get to 80% and you have 3.5 million, hey, you're still won. You still got yourself a nice net worth there, and probably far higher than if you didn't set your goals and stay optimistic and try and reach them. Something to think about. I'm Owen Bigland. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.